Good night and welcome to another interview, The Shield on the Couch. I'm with two members from the band Dissentience from Pennsylvania. They're a thrash metal band who just released an album back in February called Empire of Anatomy. We're going to talk about it, talk a little bit more about the band and the progression of the band. I have Connor Valentin, the lead singer and guitar player, and Nick Sheridan, the drummer, and the guy who hates things on the band. So good night, guys. How are you guys?
Pretty good.
So I gotta tell you, I listened to Empire Anatomy. I've been listening to a while, and it's a really good thrash metal album, but it has also elements of death. It's very technical. And I listened to your previous EP, The Mark of Pretense, and I could see the evolution from that album to this album. What did you wanted to change as a band musically from the first EP to your first full length?
I think the ultimate goal when we were doing the album this time around was just try to take everything we laid down on the EP, all the groundwork we did on that, and push it forward as much as possible. Songwriting was a big concern. Not that I think the EP had a lot of strong songs, but we sort of took everything that we learned in pre-production for the EP, and during the writing process, we're already trying to apply that kind of knowledge. Stuff like just keeping it short and sweet, trying to keep songs centered around like one central riff or one central idea, all that kind of good stuff. And one of the most important things that we learned from Corey Pierce, who produced the EP as well as the new record on our EP when we were doing pre-production, was that, you want to lay that.
Oh, you're on mute.
Whatever aspects of your sound that you want in there for the long term, for your whole career, you want to make sure that it's laid down, or at least laid down in some regard from the beginning. Whether it's melody or groove or any of that kind of stuff, because it is kind of weird when bands do, a hard left turn and go groovy 5 albums in, or, all of a sudden they're throwing clean vocals in there 3 albums in or something like that, so we tried to lay the groundwork with the EP and then just build on all of that for this new album. All the heavy parts got heavier, the melodic parts got more melodic, the thrashy parts got faster.
No, yeah, it really shows. And obviously having Corey previously from God Forbid and Bad Wolves. So you were telling me a little bit a while ago the story about how offline, how you met him. Can you tell me again, how was it that you guys hooked up and teamed to produce these albums?
Yeah, I think it was shortly after God Forbid broke up, or went on hiatus, or whatever they want to be calling it. Corey was getting back into production work, or he was trying to start getting into production work, and he put out a post on their social media that was just, that band's from the Jersey area, so he was looking for bands from sort of PA, New York, New Jersey, to start working with. And on a whim, I shot him our demo, and he happened to really like it and contacted us back. And it was a pretty good experience. He was working at a studio in New York at that point. But, with producers, you kind of, it leaves a bad taste in some people's mouth, especially in the metal world where everything's trying to be DIY and very band-centric. People immediately think like, Bob Rock, like, oh, they're going to ruin their sound. They're going to make it more commercial. But one of the first things he did in his sort of intro email to us was send, I think it was like 4 or 5 albums, just recommending, check these out. If you listen to them already, awesome. If you don't, definitely check them out. I hear you guys going in this type of sound, or in this type of direction. It was stuff like Symbolic by Death, City by Strapping Young Lad, Creator, a lot of stuff like that. Technical.
Right. There too.
Yeah, there was a Carcass record.
Yeah.
Stuff that was a little bit more on like the technical death thrashy side, but it was all stuff with a lot of character. But it was really refreshing to have somebody come at it with that point of view, because he wasn't really trying to change anything that we weren't already doing. You know what I mean? We were all pretty much already into that kind of stuff. So it was nice to see that he wanted to push us further in that direction and not kind of reel us in from it.
Yeah, no, and also it's a producer that he also comes from your world, from a metal perspective. Exactly. It's someone that obviously knows hard music and it's been around a while. And I love God Forbid, and I'm excited because I heard that, you know, they're coming back some shows, and I think that's really exciting.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to show the picture of the first EP, the Mark of Pretense, because in my reviews, interviews, I like to show the art, because you can talk about the art, but I think it's better like when people see it. Let me know when you guys can see it well.
Yep, it's up.
So who worked on this artwork for Mask of Pretense? Sorry.
So it was a guy, I think Connor, you found him on Instagram. His name is Nick Fluke, and he actually does all of these by hand. These are actual paintings. And when he was finished with it, he actually sent it to my house. So I have that as a physical painting.
Yeah. And I have
let me go grab it real quick.
Oh yeah, let's you can grab it. That's awesome. And you know the band name, Connor, Dissentience. I was looking like at the meaning of the word, like this. It's like disagreement, right? Or a type of disagreement.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a couple meanings. We settled upon it because we initially were under the name Why We Fight. When we started off playing together way back in high school, we were under the name Why We Fight, but we went through a couple drummers. Our sound was evolving. We got Nick in the band then, and we figured it was sort of time to start fresh. And we didn't really have any output. You know, I think we might have put like a single out or something, but that was it. So we figured there was a couple other bands with the name Why We Fight, and we weren't super sold on it. So
I think you did the right decision.
Yeah.
Why We Fight sounds like a Christian metal band. I don't know why. It sounds like Hallelujah, like Jesus. Like, yeah, I think you did the right decision in changing the name. Dissentience sounds more metal. And if you look at the logo of the band, it really looks like more of a logo you can see on a shirt than the other name. So I think you did a wise decision, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. For people who actually know how to read and pronounce it.
Yes, you know, when I saw the name, you know, you have to really that's an awesome painting, and you know, he's the guy's kneeling at the mask. You know, it's to me it's so important to have the artwork reflect, and obviously the sound from that one. I was listening to that one today because I wanted to listen to the first EP, and obviously Empire of Anatomy. I've been listening to it like a few months because we were chatting on Instagram. So what are the major themes that are on Empire of Anatomy as an album, you know, that run through the whole 10 songs?
I mean, it's a lot of the same stuff that was on Mask of Pretense. There's a little bit of everything, honestly. We just sort of write about whatever we're feeling. Some of it's more abstract, or I guess like fiction based to a certain degree. Like The End and All Between is kind of like our take on like a Nostradamus type deal. Like if you could actually foresee the end of the world, you know, how would that leave you? But then there's other stuff like War of Belief, where we get a little bit more, I guess, socially conscious and talk about like the influence of influencers, I guess, in today's day and age. But it's a little all over the place. You know, we write about whatever pops into our mind. Stuff like clinical psychosis is, for instance, is about like the MK Ultra program that the government was running in the 60s, where they were trying to figure out mind control via psychedelic substances. And one of the cool things I think that we do, usually to our advantage, occasionally to our detriment, we usually leave the lyrics and the vocals for last to write. But
okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, but we'll try to come up with a topic first. That way we at least know the feel of the song or the direction to go in with it. Like for Clinical Psychosis, we had the idea lyrically first before we even wrote a note, but we didn't write any of the lyrics until the song was done.
Okay.
So I think, you know, we tried to take a trippier, more sort of windy direction with the riffs and all that in the writing process. And I think it ended up pretty well in that direction.
Nice.
Other stuff like Cabal, there really was no lyrical direction, at least from the start. It was really just, that one was actually like one of the last songs we jammed. And it was pretty much just like, let's make something really fucking heavy.
Yeah, that's a heavy song. And so it's interesting to see that you write all the songs, and then you're like, okay, let's see what lyrics comes out. You know, that happens. Like, for example, when I post album reviews in YouTube, I first take the picture of the thumbnail. That way I have an idea of, like, I put like, oh, this is what I should be concentrating and talking about on an album. So something like that, obviously not as complicated as doing the whole music. And obviously the growth from Mask of Pretense to Empire of Anatomy, you can see it. There's more of a crisp production. The solos are more cleaner. I'm going to ask first, Nick, as a drummer, what changes did you wanted to do from Mask of Pretense to Empire of Anatomy, or how did you approach it as a drummer?
Well, basically, most importantly, I think the biggest thing was to listen to what the guitars were doing and kind of accent that as much as I could. So, like, say, you know, they're playing a high note here and there, I'll try to catch those with the crashes. And Corey was really riding on me to make sure I was catching everything, you know, just not just grooving on the hi-hat, you know, just making sure I'm getting everything that needs to be caught.
Nice.
I did also, like you mentioned before, Mask of Pretense was a little bit more raw in production. And that was kind of what we were going for, but it also came down to time constraints. I think we recorded that whole thing in maybe, 2-3 weeks?
It was 5 days.
Yeah, okay. Well,
yeah. Maybe the 5 days seems like weeks.
Yeah, but then, so when we did this new one, we had a lot more time, and we were actually good buddies with the sound engineer who did it, Matt Menefro. And,
nice.
You know, we had more time to flesh things out, and, hey, this doesn't sound very good. Let's get a better tone on that, you know?
No, yeah, it really shows. And War, I think the War of Belief was a great song to use as a first single, because it's not only is this the first song on the album, but I think it's a good introduction of what the whole type of music in the album is about, you know. So I think it was a wise choice of a single. Why did you pick that one as a single, as the first single to, you know, to promote the new album?
I mean, it was, at least like within the band and within like the circle of friends and whatnot that had heard it, that seemed to be one of the few songs that really stuck out to everybody. Personally, I think it hits really hard from the get. It's got that awesome like chun 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 intro, you know.
Yeah.
But also, at least from my perspective, I think it really has a lot of what defines our sound in there. You know, it's got a little thrash, it's got a little death metal, weird note choices, you know, and again, just a little bit of everything. That song seems to take a lot of turns, but it's very cohesive, you know.
No, yeah.
I think a lot of the songs in the album do that, but I think War of Belief really, that was one of the ones that executed it very well.
No, yeah, I agree. Yeah, it executed very well. So I know that you guys are huge comic book fans. Which comic books were your favorites growing up, and how much of the comic books like themes do you use on the music or the artwork?
I'd say I'm probably the big comic book fan in the band, honestly. Growing up, my favorite color was green, so the first comic I gravitated towards was stuff like Green Lantern. I always really liked Spawn as well. Just, I don't know, being a sort of rock and metal kid, Spawn had that aesthetic, you know, the chains, the hellfire, kind of good stuff. But it was kind of I have a weird history with comics, because I got into them as a kid. I drew a lot, and then one thing led to another. I sort of got out of comics for a little while, but I'm a big book guy as well, you know, prose books. And I love the artwork on old like 70s paperbacks, 60s paperbacks.
Like Stephen King has some great artwork.
Yeah, Stephen King's got some good stuff. I'm a huge Philip K. Dick fan, and he's got some awesome stuff. Isaac Asimov, Heinlein, any of that like weird sort of trippy 60s, 70s sci-fi type stuff. But a guy that I was getting books from on Instagram happened to post some issues of Heavy Metal magazine once. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. You know, I didn't know what the hell they were. I saw Heavy Metal, and I was like, oh, I'm in a heavy metal band. It's got to be kind of similar, right? But I couldn't have been more excited to be wrong, because when I got them, it's like this weird anthology of crazy sci-fi stuff. And they were the early issues from the 70s when like the really great artists were in there. And that was maybe 3 or 4 years ago at this point. And that really got me, like kickstarted me to get back into comics. So heavy metal is one of my biggest, those first couple years are amazing. Stuff like Richard Corbin and Mobius, Philippe Joulier, awesome stuff. As far as like actual comics that I'm really into, Saga of the Swamp Thing, like the 80s series Swamp Thing is amazing.
Oh my God, I remember the 80s movie about Swamp Thing.
Yeah, the movie was not quite as good as the comics, but
it wasn't good. No, and,
yeah.
and I'm sorry about Green Lantern. Because they've tried with Green Lantern on screen, but it sucked terribly. And Spawn is another one that it should have been great, but I remember a lot of the Spawn. I remember more the soundtrack for Spawn than the actual movie. Yeah, the soundtrack.
Well, yeah, the movie looked like some Power Rangers level special effects or something like that. Was going on.
Fight scene in hell. That's like some of the worst CGI I've ever seen.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. Did you guys see the new Batman?
I have not.
Oh, I did not yet.
Well, it's coming out now on HBO Max. It's the most detective Batman. I liked it. But obviously I'm not gonna spoil it. I did a spoiler review, but I'm not gonna spoil it for you guys if you haven't seen it yet. So yeah, and something about the Empire of Anatomy artwork. I'm gonna show that artwork now. It reminded me. I don't know why I thought of Judge Dredd. Remember that comic? There was a movie too with Sylvester Stallone, but it was terrible. But I see like it's like a futuristic city.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's the lightning. There's a Red Skull there. Like, who worked on this artwork, and like what were you trying to achieve with this artwork for this one?
Yeah, that was the same guy that worked on the artwork for our EP, Nick Fluke. He's also in a great band called Spore. I think they just put out like their first or second single not too long ago.
Nice.
I found him on Reddit one day. I was going through, and he does more like, I don't know, kind of trippy, almost like blacklight poster type paintings.
He likes to focus on an astronaut character.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. But I saw him. I forget what the painting exactly was, but it was different than his normal output. And I was like, oh, this guy, we were looking for somebody to do the artwork for the EP. And I was like, this guy's stuff looks really good. Maybe he would be down to do some metal stuff. I don't know. But I hit him up and he was totally for it. He was like, I've been dying to do some like metal album art. I love metal. I play metal, so he was on board, totally on board. And again, like we were talking with the comics, a lot of the references I sent over to him, stuff from like old school heavy metal magazines, and again, like sci-fi paperback covers, like especially on Empire Anatomy. I think it's got a real Blade Runner-y kind of look to it with that.
Yeah, that was something I was gonna say. I was gonna talk about Blade Runner.
Yeah,
because it does look like the city in the original Blade Runner, not the last one, the original one.
Yeah,
it has some of that, and it has the Red Skull with the lightning. And obviously, you have a metal album when you have lightning. Just think of Ride the Lightning of Metallica, and like if you put lightning on something, I saw it. I'm like, it has to be metal. It's not gonna be a country bluegrass album, or
it's not easy listening,
or something else like that.
Nearby,
the what?
Do you have the painting nearby, Connor?
I don't. I have that in the basement.
That's okay. So Nick, so obviously Connor is huge on comic books. What are your hobbies, Nick? Like when you're not playing music, banging on the drums?
Yeah, I like playing video games a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, video games, horror movies.
What video games? Are you a PlayStation guy or an Xbox guy?
I'm an Xbox kind of guy.
Nice. Yeah. I've always I have young kids, so I haven't played a video game in 5 years. So I stay with the PlayStation free, but yeah, video game is sometimes I miss it, but so if you like horror, I'm guessing did you ever play The Last of Us?
I did not play The Last of Us. No. I did. I had a PlayStation 1 and a PlayStation 2. And during the PlayStation 3 era, our family actually just got an Xbox 360 instead.
But that's okay.
That was,
If you take the PlayStation 2, put it next to the PlayStation 3, you have a PlayStation 5.
oh, smart. Save some
Yeah,
money.
I saw a meme once that they did that and thought it was hilarious as hell. But there was a time that I had Xbox and I had the PlayStation, and I liked it because they had like different games. For example, Xbox had like there was a game called Fable, where it was like you went on quests, and that game, I think it was very hardcore because you could actually get STDs in the game. So yeah, no, if you went on side quests, I went on a side quest and you went to a brothel, and the funny thing is, this is a true story. I was playing that game, and I went to a place, and the wife of, because you could get married in the game, the wife of the character actually showed up in the brothel in the game, and then they said, "You are divorced." I'm like, this is the most fucked up game ever. Like who thought of that? Like, but
you could go to a brothel in Assassin's Creed 3 as well.
In Assassin's, oh my god, I think I can't remember which Assassin's Creed I stayed on, but those were such great games.
Yeah, there's so many of them now.
There's too many games. There's too little time. But yeah, if you can do it, awesome for you. So obviously you like the horror, you like the comic books, and you can bring that into the metal. Right now in Pennsylvania, the area where you're at, how's the local metal scene there?
I think it's pretty good. It's a little bit weird because there's a lot of bands around here, but not a whole lot of venues. Even before the pandemic, where a lot of places were shutting down for various reasons, there's not a lot of places around here that like hosting metal shows. I don't know if they are just a little afraid of the rowdiness or what, but one of the spots that we always play is the Alternative Gallery in Allentown, which is just one city over. It's like 15 minutes away.
Oh, I know the name of the town because of a Billy Joel song.
Yeah. Weirdly enough, I think he was writing about Bethlehem, but he called it Allentown.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah. Like you mentioned the steel, and that was Bethlehem Steel. Not
no, I remember that song from him. But yeah, that's the same problem. Here in Miami, if I want to go to a good show, I gotta go more to Fort Lauderdale. Because here it's reggaeton, pop, all day long. But yeah, there's some small venues, and originally I'm from Puerto Rico, and Puerto Rico has a good metal scene as well. I'm sure if you guys go there, you'll have fun. They love their metal bands over there. It's a small scene, but like they go to the shows, and so it's pretty cool scene. So
I feel like the South American metal scene is rabid, man. Our buddy Paul that runs those shows at the Alternative Gallery, he's from Peru originally, and he goes back and forth, and like every time he goes down there, he's like, "Man, I need more of your CDs, man. They want more of them. They want more of them." Like he's handing them out left and right, and he's like, "Bands want to open up for you down there," and I'm like, "Jesus, man."
It's there's I think that the Latin community is very passionate about music, and obviously when you live in those countries, you don't get too many bands from outside coming, so when they come, it's like a huge event, and I think it's appreciated. And something right now, like we were mentioning, like influencers, like people like want their shit like right away, and like the easy to digest pop song, and they don't take, like, it's all about singles. Not me, I'm old school. I like an album. I like diving in, listening to an album, reading the lyrics, getting into it. I think that's the ultimate experience.
Yeah. No, 100%. I'm the same way, man. I have a ridiculous collection of vinyl records, both from my pop and stuff that I've been putting together over the years. But nothing better than sitting down, dropping the needle, and listening to a record front to back, sitting there looking at the lyric sheet.
Yeah.
Especially with the vinyl sort of explosion, having the 12 by 12 or 13 by 13 or whatever it is, record to hold in your hands and look at the artwork. Like, remember being a kid and looking at Iron Maiden artwork, like the artwork for Power Slave, and trying to look through all the artwork. You see like the Batman symbol in there and all that kind of good stuff. I don't know, it's just super fun. Super fun. We take a lot of pride in like the physical releases and trying to put a good package together, you know, not just, I don't know, you know, putting the font in Comic Sans and typing up the band lyrics and crap like that. It's really about having an interesting package.
Yeah, no, it's good if, you know, the fans can get more. So this album, did you release it? Do you have a vinyl, or is that something that you're looking to do?
I wish.
Yeah.
I know it's super expensive to do and super hard, and obviously it's Adele's fault for putting out 500 copies of that crappy album.
Man, I blame Pink Floyd, dude. How many represses they on Dark Side of the Moon, man? It's gotta be.
I have it. I have that one.
Same here, man. But I bought mine out of a $2 bin, not from Target. You know.
Yeah. No, I didn't buy it from Target, but yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
And we'd love to put out vinyl, man. It's just one of those things that it's extremely expensive right now. A lot of the pressing plants are really backed up. I think Jack White actually just put something out recently that was really interesting. And I heard it a while ago, but there's only a handful of actual physical presses left in the world. And especially right now with the boom happening, with everybody getting into this, especially after the pandemic, where everybody's, you know, in this like weird collector mentality with everything.
That's where I got my record player, straight in the pandemic. I hadn't, you know, got it. I'm like, I'll get it now, you know, like it's funny now that it's outselling CDs.
Oh yeah. And it has been for a little while.
Yeah.
But it seems like everybody's been getting back into it. So now all the major labels are sort of eating up whatever time the record plants have and resources that they have to, again, to, you know, do the 1001st repress of Dark Side of the Moon or whatever the new Adele record is. Or so us little guys are kind of left in the dust, either paying a premium to have our stuff pressed, or, you know, I've seen bands where they're releasing their album in March, but the vinyl's not going to be done until September.
Yeah, no, that happens. That happened with that Tribune album I have over there. I ordered the variant, but it got here like this year.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's the whole industry on that end is topsy turvy right now, man. It's pretty wild, and it's one of those things where I think once we establish a fan base and sort of get to the point where we can do that and hopefully at least sell enough during a pre-order to pay for the run, it's something that we'd love to do. I mean, I know I personally, like, that's the goal for me, man. I would love to have a Dissentience record and sitting in there between Death and, you know, whatever E-band I can think of.
Yeah. So, you know, it can take time, and maybe you can do it in a few years. And, you know, good music doesn't have an expiration date. You know,
Absolutely.
you get it when it's available. So Nick, I have a question for you, because I don't know, what's Enjoy Slurm?
Oh, it's from Futurama. It's like it's the cartoon soda equivalent of like Mountain Dew or something.
Okay, I was like watching. I wonder what the shirt is about. I haven't watched that show, but so
I think you should watch it. Like,
I think it's like something. So I know you guys are playing a show, I think on the 30th of April. I have here a flyer. The first name of the band, I'm sorry, does it say Concrete Caveman?
Yeah.
Yeah, because are they grindcore or death metal? Because they have, you know, those logos where you can barely understand what the name of the band is.
Honestly, I haven't checked them out yet. They just got added to the bill. I think there was supposed to be another band on there, but they had some lineup issues and some things had to get switched around. So I haven't checked them out yet, but I'm pretty excited to. I mean, with a logo like that, they gotta be heavy.
No, yeah. You know, if they have a logo that you barely can understand, I'm like, that's a black metal band. Because your logo looks very like thrash metal. Mortal Ground, I think it looks more hardcore.
Yeah.
And Cruel Bomb, I'm trying to decipher. I think they're like a thrash death metal band.
You got it.
Just like looking at the logo, I think like, yeah, that has to be that type of band. But yeah,
Yeah, cool.
it's that like the, I think is that like the one of the first shows that you're doing right now in the album cycle? I think you did one like a few, like last week I saw that you did a show, right?
Yeah, we've played a few times since the album dropped. We had a one in Allentown, one in Bethlehem. We did Delaware. We're just trying to get out as much as possible. But it's a little weird right now with everything kind of reopening. Again, a lot of places shut down during the pandemic, and it seems like everybody kind of wants, they want to see a draw. You know, they're trying to get people out, and they're trying to make sure that the shows are packed. And I mean, frankly, death metal shows are not the way to pack a house for a lot of venues. You know, they'll put a cover band, or book a cover band night over a metal night. They're not taking as many risks as they were pre-pandemic, but we're trying to get out there as much as possible. I think this is actually either our first or second time playing Harrisburg. Definitely our first time playing that venue though, so I'm very excited. And the Cruel Bomb band, those guys are our boys. They're from Scranton, Wilkes-Barre area in Pennsylvania. They're sort of part of this little local scene. I think the Lehigh Valley is kind of their home away from home, and we always have a blast playing with those guys.
Yeah, it's good to hear bands supporting each other and helping each other out, because I think that's what's all about. So if you guys had to do like one dream tour, like it would be like, oh my God, this is the tour that I would do, like which would be the band that you would pick? First, I will go with Nick, and then I will go with Connor.
I don't know. I'd probably say any band that had Gene Hoglan drumming on it.
I think he played for a few, right?
Yeah, he actually just left Testament, but he's in Death Clock. He was in Death.
Yeah, I know in Testament now they have Dave Lombardo's in Testament now.
Yeah, he just joined. Yeah.
Take that player. Yeah, no, that should be fun. And so yeah, any band with Gene Hoglan. How about you, Connor? Which would be your dream tour?
Oh man, I feel like I saw it like right before the pandemic. There was Voivod, Revocation, Psychroptic, Skeletal Remains. I think there might have been another band, but I was sitting there looking at that flyer, and I was just like, damn, I would love to be on this tour, because those are like, Revocation is a huge influence on us. Voivod is one of my favorite old school bands, and Psychroptic, those dudes are fucking insane, man. It's like progressive.
Psychroptic, I almost saw them. I went in 2016 to Oslo, and I was in the Infernus Music Festival, and they were playing, but the venue, it was like a bar, and it had like a down part in a bar, and then the big arena was on the top, and I didn't know that. And I was watching some local black metal bands. I don't know the name; they weren't that good. And I'm like, when does Psychroptic play? And a guy next to me said, "Oh, they're playing upstairs." And when I went upstairs, they had finished their set, and I missed them. But that's a great band, and obviously Revocation. I think it's one of the best like modern thrash metal bands that have come out in the last 10 years. And I think that they're very technical. They're very good. They put out great music, great covers. So yeah, I think right now for thrash metal, the thing is like a lot of the old bands, they are retiring, or they don't play the way they used to. Obviously, Metallica don't play the ways they used to. Megadeth, don't get me started with them. You know, it's a huge problem. Obviously, Slayer retired, and Anthrax, I think they're still pretty good. But obviously, we need fresh new bands. I think bands like Trivium, Revocation. Obviously, you guys can take that along. You know, there's new thrash metal bands. And I think another one that I was listening to recently, Insight, they sound a little bit like Pantera. So it's like new crop of bands.
In that band.
Yeah, they kind of sound like the lead singer is Richie Cavalera. He's Max Cavalera's stepson. So when I'm like, oh, it's his stepson, because he sounds nothing like Max, but he sounds so much like Phil Anselmo on such tracks. I felt like I was listening to Pantera in some of the tracks. But yeah, right now, thrash metal is in like a crossway where the old bands are not what they used to be, or they're you can't ask them to play the same type of aggression that they played when they were in their 20s. So
Yeah.
I think it's an awesome time for new bands to carry the torch for thrash metal. And obviously you guys are doing thrash metal, but you do it with a modern style, because it's good to have something of the old school, but also bring something modern. Like, it's such a sad news for a band like Power Trip. They were a band that I thought was gonna be huge, and obviously the lead singer died. I don't know what's gonna happen with them, but yeah, I think there's new exciting thrash metal bands nowadays. They just need more exposure. So hopefully you guys will get that and play more shows, and hopefully, yeah, keep the torch alive for thrash metal.
Yeah, I appreciate you lumping us in with all that, man. It's some big names in there. Yeah, for us, it's always been, I don't know, I feel like a lot of the thrash stuff that's out there, and even some of the death metal too, you can definitely tell who their influences are. You know what I mean? A lot of these, it's young bands, but they're kind of stuck in the 80s. And I feel like we kind of have, we take that modern edge because when we were sort of coming up and learning our instruments, you know, the big bands for us, I would say, were sort of that new wave of American metal, you know, Trivium, Lamb of God, Machine Head, and like that Blackening Through the Ashes era, even stuff like Avenged Sevenfold.
The Blackening is an amazing album, yeah.
It's a 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10. I mean, I haven't listened to the new track yet. I wasn't a huge fan of the last couple records, but that Blackening Through the Ashes.
No, to me, they peaked with the Blackened. So,
yeah, absolutely.
But let's see what happens. So, guys, you know, I want to thank you. I know I'm in Zoom and it's saying that I have like 2 minutes left. So they're like 2 minutes and they cut me off. So obviously, I want to thank you for taking time to talk with me. Obviously, for people who are watching, we had some technical difficulties where we powered through, because sometimes technology can be a bitch. But obviously, where can they get the copies of the album Empire Anatomy?
You can hit up Dissentience.com or follow us on our Facebook or Instagram pages to keep up with any of the shows that we're playing, any further releases that we have, whether it's t-shirts, CDs, hopefully vinyl, any of that kind of stuff. And yeah, thank you again for having us, man. It was a blast.
No, thank you. Yeah, it was really fun talking to you guys and talking about things that not only music, you know, keep it fresh, because there's some interviews that they ask, you know, it's the same question. I'm like, I don't want to ask the same. I want to like keep it fresh. So again, thank you guys, and Empire Anatomy, kick-ass album. So hopefully you'll get to tour on it more, and maybe come down here to Florida, and I can you know, meet you guys in person, and obviously have a beer with you guys. So until next time, this is Hector, the Shield Dude in the couch, and I'll see you right here on the couch. Thank you and good night.